John, where are we?
We are at the warehouse of the Rhode Island Computer Museum. This is an incredible place. It is just a tremendous archive of all kinds of computing equipment dating back many, many years.
One of the best things about doing local content is that local fans will actually reach out and be like, I do a cool thing.
Yeah.
You want to introduce yourself, Dan?
Sure, I'm Dan Berman. I'm the director of the Rhode Island Computer Museum, and welcome to Area 51 here.
How many square feet are we talking?
We have 5,000 square feet, floor to ceiling, with just old computers. We started collecting in probably 96. We incorporated in 1999, and when we incorporated, every state agency, every government agency, every school found us and started donating computers.
Look at it, they're always busy.
That's his job.
And so Ray has been watching the channel for a few years now.
Yes.
So Ray, tell us a little bit about you.
Well, I've been in computers since 1969. I've worked on mainframes, PCs, all different kinds of stuff, and when I found this museum, I lend my expertise here to repair computers and demonstrate things to the various visitors that we have coming in there.
Did you tell me that in a past life you were a cinematographer or editor?
I used to work in television broadcasting in 1960. I worked at Channel 5 in New York City, and at 19 I was nominated for an Emmy for editing.
So we now have an Emmy-nominated crew member.
Official.
EJ, I don't know that we need you any longer. Now that the forklift's out of here, let's go see what the hell it is that they've gotten.
It looks incredible.
Got to strap a rope on because you get lost in there.
So we usually like to start our tour with the Harrier jet. So let's go down and see the Harrier jet first.
What that has to do with computers, I have no idea. So we're constantly getting donations from people, people that are just cleaning out their garages mostly. And they'll say, well, I have this, but it doesn't work. They say, I don't care, we need parts.
I look at Facebook Marketplace all the time, and I actually do see vintage computers going for pretty good money.
We don't usually sell our computers. We do loan them to the movie companies, and we've been in a lot of different movies, the latest of which is Severance. But just yesterday, I got a call from somebody up in Massachusetts, and they want to donate an Apple Lisa to us. And an Apple Lisa is a very rare computer, but they wanted it to go to a museum rather than to sell it.
I mean, those machines sell for thousands of dollars nowadays.
So this is the Harrier jet. There's another little museum, and they lost their space, so they have put their museum in storage. This is the Saratoga Museum, and that's the ones that own the Harrier jet. The car is a 1939 Ford, and that was at Pearl Harbor.
I was going to say, what does it have to do with the computer museum?
Well, we figured we could make a nice simulator out of that if we put a Raspberry Pi in it.
Make a hell of a home arcade out of this thing.
It's amazing to think that, you have over 1,000 pounds here and it's going to be lifted straight up when the engines are turned around.
Dan?
Yes?
Where are you?
Marco!
Send up a flare.
Anybody who's been watching the content for a while knows that EJ and I have adopted a little bit of a CRT obsession.
My name is EJ Massa, and I'm an addict, a CRT addict. Every day I go on eBay and Facebook Marketplace and look for CRT televisions for me to make detailed mod videos about.
And so whenever there are CRTs around, I think of my friend EJ. And I think, what could he do with these?
Just kind of walking by here, we're just on the fringes. Look at these hotel switchboards, very old technology, big IBM equipment that I don't even know what it is.
When we have the students come here, the students can't even figure out how to dial a rotary dial because, if you're under 15, you don't know what a rotary dial phone is.
You don't know how to.
And their first question is, well, how do you dial 911 fast?
I remember when we got 911. Before that, we used to have the fire department, the police department, everything listed by our telephone.
Yeah, a little orange sticker right on the phone, which would tell you what numbers to call.
With the sheer quantity of stuff, how do you decide what goes in and out of the museum? Is it the kind of thing where you're rotating things in and out?
Yeah, I haven't figured out how to say no yet. We try to rotate our exhibits, but some of the stuff is big. We had one member that there was a jukebox on the side of the road. I must have gone past it 10 times, and I kept saying, I'm not going to take that, I'm not going to take that, I'm not going to take it. So I'm sitting over in the learning lab, and one of our members, Mike Lill, comes in, and he says, Dan, you'll never guess what I got. A jukebox, a Sebring jukebox. Now, this gentleman is 80 years old, and he has a pickup, and I asked him, well, how did you get that in your pickup? He says, well, I was standing on the side of the road looking at the jukebox, scratching my head, and two nice gentlemen came by and said, well, you want some help putting that in the truck? And they lifted it up and put it in the truck for him.
There was no escaping that jukebox.
There was no escaping that jukebox.
Look at this stack of 99 4A expansion boxes. Bunch of TRS-80s. It's just incredible. Boxes and boxes of TI-99 4As, Commodore 64s.
And they had all these Commodore 64s. I said, nobody's going to want these Commodore 64s. We only need a couple at the museum. And then I get a call from the show in Netflix, and it's called Halt and Catch Fire. Do you have any Commodore 64s? I said, how many? And I have 17 of them. And they said, all of them. And that's the first scene in Halt and Catch Fire. They have a house, and they have Commodore 64s up and down the stairs and all over the house. After that, I said, well, I better not throw anything away. And so now I have, all these Texas Instruments, and I'm just waiting for somebody to say, oh, we have a movie about Texas Instruments.
Do you ever find that you just have the box and not and then you hang on to the box because maybe a production would like that?
I've been doing that lately because I figured out, well, everybody wants a gateway box, it's got the cows on. Yeah. Some of these boxes, like one of the Texas Instrument boxes, is a French Texas Instrument, so I kept that box.
Yeah, there might not be any of those left.
Yeah.
You might have the only one.
So what we have over here is we got a call from Fairfield University. It's a PDP 1135, and they said that we're getting rid of this. It was given to them by Yale. It was a little hard to transport because usually the sections come apart, but in this one, they're bolted together, and we didn't want to take it apart, so we just moved the whole thing in a van. I was a much younger man when we moved that.
What year is that from?
So these are the 80s, and we hope to restore this one. We're going to bring this one back over to the Learning Lab. But I told Mike, if we bring this one over, we have to take something else back. That never seems to work out, but that's what I always
gentleman
tell
at the
him.
lab you'll meet, his name is Mike. He's our PDP expert. He has many, many PDPs on the wall that are working. The PDP-9 that he has is probably the only one in existence that's working.
Yeah, it's one of 12 in the world, and it's the only one that's working. Wow. So. But the nice part about renting them to the movie companies is that we send them out all dirty, and they come back cleaned and wrapped.
They get kind of laundered through the movie company.
Yeah.
Is that for like audio mag tape?
That's audio mag tape.
Yeah, that's audio.
This is digital. This is for
that's a computer one.
Somebody had donated 2 9-track tape drives, so people have a lot of data still on tapes, and we'll convert them back to USB sticks or something.
Oh wow, you'll do that?
This size is only about 175 megabytes of data, so we can convert this. Very easy to put it on.
Right.
Yeah, but at the time, that was a ton of data.
Correct. Well, it's actually you had unlimited storage because you kept changing tapes. So
Yeah.
A data file may have 20 tapes to it, and it just keeps growing and growing.
Yeah, I remember seeing photos of like office buildings where they just have a tape room. They just had tons of tapes hung on racks.
For the same era, what did the average computer store for hard drive space?
Oh, I mean, computers of that era might not even had hard drives, or big industrial ones would have had 5 or 10 megabytes.
So this was mega storage.
Yeah, this is huge storage. This is like corporate storage, and you'd work right off the tapes. The tapes were a real-time system.
Yes. So linear punch cards is what they are.
Yeah.
And I'll always remember. There's like a big documentary about when they first started the production of Lord of the Rings.
Right.
We're gonna go to New Zealand. It's this huge thing, and they're wheeling in tons of servers and SAN storage and everything. And they go, "We're prepared to store 1 terabyte of storage for our production."
We're getting Avid storage. We're getting 1.5 terabytes of storage set up and 6 Avids hooked together. Okay. Just gearing up for the biggest thing any of us have ever seen.
These 2 tapes in the later years, taking the tapes out of these tape bands, were a process. You had to take the tapes out, right, to use them. That was too slow. So now they used automatic, which if you see a pin in the back, you just throw it in the computer and the machine would unlock it, and it would stay in.
Do it all
and
itself.
it would spin, and the tape would come out all by itself, and it would grab it by vacuum. So now the operator just had to take it and just slap it on the tape drive.
So one of the things that we do is we have projects with schools, and we do project-based learning. This is one of the kits. We import the kits from England. They're $6,000, and they're a little race car, and then we host a race down in Ninigret Park. This is part of it. Our mission is to help inspire the workforce of the future. Electric cars will be the future. They have to learn how to put them together, but they also need to learn how to program them and to do things in electronics with them. This one came from Hasbro. This is an AS400. I don't know what's going on with Hasbro. Hasbro says, oh, we would like to donate our computer to you, but don't tell anybody. Well, yeah.
Except for EJ.
Yeah.
This is between me and you.
Do you ever have to be concerned about, I mean, you must, about climate control, temperature control in here?
Well, yeah, we are, but we don't do anything.
But there's not much you can do about it.
Yeah, the options are limited, right?
Yeah, I mean, the wintertime's fine because cold is great.
Right,
you know?
right.
We can even turn them on in the cold. It's moisture in the summer. If we're not careful in here, it builds up moisture and the floor gets damp. That's
Try
the
to
thing.
keep stuff elevated. And,
Yeah, that's why we have all the pallet racking and the shelving and try to put everything up. Some of it's a little heavy to put up.
I mean, the scariest things are the disk drives because you can't get any dust in them. You got to be very careful if you turn those on.
Our members think that everything should be able to be turned on, and you know, I don't have another 1,000 years, so I'm not going to be able to turn everything on. But we do get calls all the time. I got a call from somebody who wanted to save a computer, and they had heard that up in Arlington, Massachusetts, in the Boston area, the Arlington Coal and Lumber Yard was throwing out their computer. It's the IBM System 3. Now, you don't see many IBM System 3s around. This was at a lumber yard. They were using it for their inventory. And I called them and they said, well, this is going in the dumpster. And I said, well, can you wait a day? And they get their forklift out and they put it on I rented a truck up there and they put it on the truck. And I'm saying, oh no, how am I going to get it back off the truck now? You know. But we have neighbors with a forklift. This is 900 pounds. So the IBM 360, the mainframe computer, most people would lease it. They wouldn't even buy it because it's so expensive. And then IBM came out with other series and smaller series, and this is the IBM Systems 3.
This is all business technology. You'd never see one of these in the home. And that stuff is the stuff that really disappeared. Because businesses didn't care at all. It didn't go into an attic. It got thrown in a dumpster.
So a mainframe computer in a business, it was not unlike the idea behind a data center or a series of servers that run your business applications today. The idea was just that your primary business application, like your primary record system or your primary sales system or whatever, normally multiple functions would all be on one mainframe and everybody would connect to it. Really, in terms of design, it's not all that unlike a server cluster or a server farm, but there's one.
Doing just a single task, like we're talking about inventory, you know, that's like, and that was revolutionary enough for businesses that the extreme cost was justified.
So what's old is new. It wasn't really the cloud, but you started with a mainframe computer that everybody connected into. Everything went to micros and standalone systems, and now we're all going back to the cloud.
Check this out, Personal Computing Magazine. You bet I bought a second computer. Using your computer to learn foreign languages, printer accessories, composing music on a computer.
This should be the new Peter Smith motto.
You bet I bought a second computer. John bought a few.
You bet. My room upstairs is filled floor to floor with monitors.
Look at these CRTs.
Sharp. Those are nice. Look at that. An old school web conferencing.
20 years of just like every corner has, you know, collections and amazing items. You know, I see a TRS business computer up there. I see, you know, PS2 monitors way up high.
All the ones that are wrapped up over here are rainbows. Deck rainbows.
Deck rainbows, yeah.
And those deck rainbows were in the show Pose. This is the Model 1 Radio Shack. What's interesting is this is actually the Radio Shack table, too. So it has the real table. And when Radio Shack first put this out, they forgot to do one thing, to insulate the terminals for EMF, the monitors for EMF. So when people would take these home, they take them home, turn them on, and everybody's television in the neighborhood would go fuzzy. So they had a big recall on these to shield them on the inside.
That was one of the computers that started the home computer revolution.
And here are the connectors. Radio Shack had these.
Little joysticks and everything.
Look, Halloween computing.
From 1982.
What do we have here? This little Konica.
It's like a slide scanner, probably.
This right here, that's one of my favorite monitors. That's another version of that one you were talking about, EJ, the Commodore 1084. Beautiful monitor.
We have a bunch of British computers because we decided that we wanted to collect British computers since we had British cars. And up above, you're going to see an apricot. So you had apple, and over in England they named it apricot, and then some crazy people over in England named one after squirrels, and they called it the acorn.
This Commodore 1084, this one has the text control panel on it, which definitely means it was part of a video editing setup using an Amiga. And they would use these monitors. These monitors were good enough to use as production preview monitors for high schools or small businesses that did that stuff. So its main benefit was that it could output NTSC video as its main video output.
The IBM Data Masters. Now, of course, IBM had to have everything heavy, so these are very heavy.
Yeah.
Everybody named their computer. So this one's called Baby, and it says, "Do not leave baby unattended."
You ever encounter a FireWire 400 cable and think, times are a changing.
I've got a pile of those at my house.
I know. I haven't had the heart to throw them out completely.
Yeah.
I've got a camera or two.
Yes,
Yeah,
that still have it.
I still have a few.
This behind you is a Sphere Univac. They were using this for their cookie inventories.
Is this a green terminal?
It's actually amber.
Amber.
I always love the amber ones.
And this is a mag card typewriter.
Oh, wow.
And this is about 1 page of information. So what you would do is you type on your typewriter and you put it in the bottom body, and that would copy it. You could copy it on here. Now you couldn't see it, but you could reprint it.
I have never seen this technology before.
It's very rare.
I'm not familiar with it
It
at
didn't
all.
last very long.
Yeah, it's cut in the same way as a punch card.
Yep.
Interesting transitional moment in computing.
Yep.
If I only had a cigarette.
Have you ever seen something like this before?
So one person sits there and the other person sits here, and they look through this little screen, and it's a split screen. So you're going to see half the monitor, and the other person's going to see half the monitor, and they're going to key punch all day. How do you think your neck would feel on that one?
Right? Oh, what, you have to like.
The side.
So you need to be short like me. No, the space bar feels so strange.
And right here is a missile guidance system from a missile silo from Canada.
It's just a Lisa hanging out here. Lisa is kind of interesting because when I was 12, my computer teacher in the middle school, Westport Middle School, bought me a book about the Lisa. And ever since then, I've always kind of wanted one, but they're so expensive that even like over all the years, I've never wanted to spend, $1,500, $2,000 for a system.
And I see it has the same Super Nintendo discoloration problem.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
As everything did, those old plastics that aren't painted,
Yeah.
A lot of computers are actually painted, like all of IBM stuff was painted Commodore. This is a painted monitor.
This is a compact portable computer. They call them lovable luggables. And you can pick this up. This is like 35 to 45 pounds. That's what those things are.
Yep.
Jaunty.
Bring that on the plane.
For my job, I was a civil engineer, and we used to carry these around in the airports when you go to visit other projects and things. The computer companies decided that, well, that's a lot of work. We'll put wheels on it. The suitcase industry saw that and said, that's a good idea. So that's why all the suitcases now have wheels on them.
it's led by
'Cause it
computers.
started led by computers. So 1986 is the year that they were going to make Toy Story, and Pixar decided that they didn't have a computer fast enough to make the Toy Story videos. So what they were going to do is build their own computer. So this is a Pixar computer. It's actually two of them. There's a unit in the top and a unit in the bottom here. It's very similar to a Silicon Graphics. So this is the IBM 5100, and it has cartridges, and so this runs the IBM OS. This is right before the PC came out.
One of the things that I'm like most struck by as I walk through all the different models is how many different form factors there are for PCs. Here we have like mostly keyboard, teeny monitor, and some other bullshit. Like over here, monitor, etc. to the right.
Personal electronic translator from Commodore. So before Apple went into the schools, Commodore tried to go into schools, but their computers were too expensive for people to buy at the time. What Commodore decided to do was they wanted to put their tape deck. So the tape deck is how you would get information in and out. They decided to put it into a computer. And that's exactly what they did. They cut a hole in the top of it and they put it in their computer. So that's all they did. Once they put that in the top of the computer, they said, "Oh, the keyboard doesn't fit.
We better make it impractically small."
Well, yeah, I know.
Look at this.
We'll put a chiclet keyboard on from our calculators. And nobody has fingers that small. You want to test it?
Yeah.
See if
Look, if anybody would.
So that was not a good idea, and they went back to the full-size keyboard.
I love it. It's one of my favorite things about early technology is trying to figure out what will work and getting it wicked wrong several times. What kind of tape are we talking? Are we talking
Cassette tape.
like
Just a home cassette.
Audio.
home cassette, like an audio cassette tape?
Yeah, your Teddy Ruxpin.
And you write data to it.
So if you were a student, a computer student in the 70s and 80s,
I was not.
I wasn't a computer student. I was there, but you'd have one of these. This is the Texas Instrument 990. This is the board that you would learn on. So they give this to the students, and they teach them how to program with this board. It's kind of
It's the
neat.
Raspberry Pi of its day, kind of.
Yeah.
So the idea was that it was like just a standard computer board. Today we're gonna learn how to program this calculator.
It wasn't a calculator. It was a mainframe computer.
Okay.
The calculator was just the interface to talk
It was
to
the keyboard. That was just the keyboard to talk to.
Oh, got it. It's just interface.
There's a little show that's on Apple TV right now. It's called Severance. This is a Ben Stiller show, and he's very precise about what he wants. He didn't come himself. He said his set designers. And they saw this, and they said, this is fantastic. This is a Data General Dasher terminal. And we loaned him that, and he said, do you have 5 more of those? Well, nobody has 5 more of those. And he says, oh, can we take them apart and make 5 of our own? I said, sure. So they took it apart and they 3D printed the face and everything of that, and they put TVs in them. And when you see the show, those are the ones that they made to look like ours. So ours is in it too, but they made 5 other ones. And they took the keyboard and they made that, and then they put a tractor ball on because they love that keyboard.
That is kind of awesome.
This is the system that was running in the New York City Fire Department during 9/11. It has a system A and a system B.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but there's like an existential crisis happening here. Who are you? It says on D.
What?
Web surfing.
Read your internet by the minute.
Insert $1.
Oh, it was paid to use the internet?
This is a Chinese version of the Apple II. It's a clone. It's a golden II, a knockoff, and that's an Apple III.
The Apple III is the notorious failure for Apple.
Yes.
They really mispredicted what the market was about and actually went back to the Apple II and developed that line for many more years.
This is Z series. That's the 890. So it went the 360, 370, 390, and we'll have a 390 over at the other place. You'll see that. And the 890, which is the biggest one. We had a 390, but I got a call from England. And I get a call from this gentleman. He's a broker, and he says, do you want to sell your 390? No, I don't want to sell it. And the next day, the guy calls from England, and he's from EDF, which is the nuclear energy department in England. They run 9 nuclear power stations with these old computers, and they needed ours for parts. So they said, can we buy your computers? And I said, all right, who am I to stand in the way? I'll sell you the old computers. How much do you want? And I'm thinking, I have 2 of these, and I'm thinking, well, maybe 15,000. And I was thinking for both of them. And he says, oh, okay, that means 30,000 for 2? And I said, sure. So that works. About a week later, I get a call. Our accounting system won't take U.S. dollars. Is it okay if I give you 30,000 pounds instead of U.S. dollars? Now, the exchange rate for a pound is $1.50 per dollar. So I said, sure, that works out for me. And I get another call, and he says, there's no boards. Where are the boards? And he sends me a picture. He shows me the back of the computer. I asked him, well, how old are you? And he tells me his age. And I said, well, have you looked in the front of the computers? Because these boards were in the front of that computer, not in the back.
Like this one right here, I'm just amazed by the aesthetics of it. This was a machine that was meant to be seen as an incredible piece of technology. Wow. I mean, this is just like industrial beauty.
You never got fired for buying IBM? That was the slogan.
This is the back of the machine. A machine like this could virtualize 4,000 of those machines. Why would you want the maintenance of 4,000 computers when you could just buy one box?
Right.
Yeah.
And people will say, well, if the box, I said, get another one. Yeah. 2 chassis, right?
Yep.
Figure the room you would need to house 4,000 servers.
But what you're describing in modern terms is ESX and virtualization.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What would happen is you could check your email on the Cape in the early 2000s, and it was very expensive because it was very slow. We liked it so much that we took the guts out and we put a laptop in here and we played Doom on it.
That is the sign of a nerd.
Yeah.
I remember when I first started working for my company, we made printers, not for this particular one, but the printers that would go in these. You could browse the webpage, and then for an extra fee, you could print out on thermal paper a copy of your MapQuest directions or your email to take
That's
with
what
you.
would have done,
You know?
yeah. I thought you were going to say, and we figured out a way to print out Doom.
Oh, let's RGB mod this.
Branded TVs. That was like a thing for a little while for kids' rooms and in wealthy homes.
Oh, in particular, EJ found one that was a Batman one.
They had so many. They had Hot Wheels. They had like My Little Pony.
So this whole wall is beautiful to me.
It started out we were throwing TVs away, and then a show came to us and said, oh, don't throw any TVs away. We want your TVs. We use them in our television shows. So the show was Joy, and it was about the mop lady, and it starred Jennifer Lawrence. It was filmed up in Boston, and that was the TV that was in it. So we built this wall of TVs. There was a show about the good nurse, and they wanted a TV in the hospital room, and so we actually have a hospital TV.
A piece of technology that I've been fascinated by for the past few months is that very, very short window of time when CRTs, and I think we're looking at one, that 2007 one maybe, were HDMI compatible and widescreen.
Well, that's LCD up
That's
there.
LCD? Shoot.
We were in another movie called King Kong Skull Island, and they had a whole setup of a computer room, and we did that.
Those are iconic. That's what people remember interacting with. They don't remember the machines in the server room. They interacted with these terminals that are basically just made to connect.
There was another show called Hidden Figures. They called us and said, oh, do you have a 701, an IBM 701? Well, nobody has an IBM 701. But we did have some books with the plans for them. So we gave them the floor plans, the layout, and they built their own. We loaned them our oscilloscopes here. So when you see the show, you see the woman moving the oscilloscope, and that's our oscilloscope. These are analog computers. They're really pretty patch panels.
My first computer was a mainframe.
What year are we talking?
69.
I didn't really grow up with computers, but I used them in college. So I graduated high school in 1970 and went down to school in Texas. I was in civil engineering. And of course, when you're in civil engineering, you need to use computers back then. The first time I probably owned one was when my daughter was born. I decided to buy her a Texas Instrument TI 99-4A. Of course, she was like 1 year old, so she wasn't really going to use it, but I was going to use it.
The TI 99-4A was also my very first computer, though mine came from a yard sale in 1992.
Mine was, I guess it was that Tandy 486 that ran Decimate.
When you were programming on a mainframe, mainframes were rented back then, so time was very important. So you as a programmer, you had to schedule time on the machine, and they can only give it to you when the machine was down, which is usually 3 o'clock in the morning. And even when you programmed, you had to write on coding sheets. Then you had to submit it to a key punch department, and they got paid by the keystroke. So then you get your cards back, and they had to verify to see if they typed it right.
What are they, metering the keystrokes somehow?
Yeah, so if you're a very quick typist, you got paid a lot. So when you would write code, you would have to tell the key punch operator, is this a 0 or is this an O? Is this a 1 or is this an L? Is this a 5? Yeah, so you had to put like a coding scheme at the top. That's exactly what you did. And then you get that back, you got errors, and they say, sorry, you can't have any more time. So now you're at your desk on figuring out how you fixed it.
It's an RJE, and as you can see, it's Y2K ready. So your punch cards would be Y2K ready, and there's your floppy disk.
Get in there, John.
Free cleaning job. This is hard drives. This is the drive part, right? This actually has the platters in it.
That has the platters
and the heads.
So each one of these is 240 megabytes. And so what happens is you'd need like 5 of them to make a gig.
Yep.
And that's why the computer rooms had so many of them.
If you had a head crash, you couldn't see it. So as an operator, you would load a pack on, lock it up, run your job, and halfway through the job you get a data error on the disk pack. You wouldn't know what was wrong. You would assume that the disk pack went bad, so you would take the disk pack off and move it to another drive. So since the disk pack itself is now scored and scratched, the heads are not flying above it, so you crash that drive. You would take them off like this. The pin would go in here, and then this cover, you would just unlock, you just unwind it, and it would lock itself onto the drive.
8-inch floppy, storage 60K. So maybe you could get, you could get a few Word documents on here, but they cannot have media in them.
Wow, that's an old tube tester.
That's an old tube tester. But tube technology, they would burn out quite often. I think it may be
maybe
40s or 50s, yeah.
What is a tube tester?
It tests vacuum tubes.
Yeah, so everything, radios and TVs used to have vacuum tubes. It was like the dominant technology before transistors. And if you were servicing those systems, you needed a way to test those tubes. So you have all your different sockets, you'd set it up according to the chart, and it would test it out for you and tell you if it was good or not. They were a replaceable commodity item. You could go to any corner store and you'd have a tube section where you could buy tubes for your device.
They actually would have television repairmen that would come to your house, just like a doctor, and they'd repair your TVs. Later on, they started getting the tube testers in the drugstores, and you could take the tubes out yourself if you're brave and take them to the store and test them and then get new tubes for your TVs.
So there's the Gateway 2000.
That's a big home computer from our era.
We're halfway there, guys. So for Ice Age, Blue Sky Studios was contracted over in Connecticut, and Blue Sky Studios used these little Silicon Graphic O2s, and they had 14 of them, and they gave us this one.
Silicon Graphics is kind of forgotten about now in terms of computing, but they had a line of computers that did CAD back in business in the 90s and 80s.
They were very fast.
Incredible graphics machines, but a lot of those capabilities now have been rolled into desktop computers like everything else.
Everybody named their computers, and this one is named SID. System is down.
A very old piece of paper right there.
This was a business computer, and this one cost $10,000 when it was new in '82. That was as much as 2 cars back then.
I don't know. Maybe just a disembodied number pad.
Bunch of
Just a
stereos.
bunch of audio equipment, VHS tapes, Betamax. This is a Burroughs computer.
The competitors to IBM that you really don't hear about anymore. Because IBM kind of dominated that market eventually. Oh wow, Burroughs adding machine, huh? Is this the system that later they took that CPU and made the 99-4A?
Here's the face panel for it.
I always thought that was incredibly cool that the 99-4A had a mainframe CPU that had just been taken down from these big boxes was made into a single chip, and eventually Texas Instruments didn't know what to do with them anymore and just put them in home computers because they scaled down that much at that point. Look at this, again with the beautiful blue aesthetic of Data General. Look at the space age design here.
Yes. So we got a call from Harvard, and Harvard said they were getting rid of their CAT scan machine. And we go up to Harvard, and they're all out there in white bunny suits with Geiger counters. Oh, you can have this piece. Oh, you can't have that piece. It's too hot. So they gave us the console. We decided not to take the laboratory table that they had, that they were putting the bodies on. And this is what they were taking the pictures with. It was this little screen, and these are the computers.
So this thing that looks like it's like a space-age computer, I was over here going, what does it do? And he was like, well, it's a mini computer. And for those who couldn't afford big mainframes, you'd buy this. And I'm thinking to myself, would it have been worth it to not just do things manually and raise, like, if you have 2,400 employees, they're all on payroll, and you got to process payroll. Like, this is like...
Yeah, you don't want to do that by hand. You need a room full of clerks.
The employees are still doing whatever your business puts out, but you have to.
This is a room full of clerks.
Yeah, between microcomputers, which is what we have now, and we have the mini stage, which is largely forgotten.
Those cabinets are filled with software.
Ooh, accounting software.
Sports Illustrated.
Ooh, digital Beethoven.
Oh.
Ocean's 8 Job Lot, $4.99.
To this day, when I see blank floppy disks, blank VHS tapes, blank CDs, I'm like, do I need any? That's how you know when technology is ancient, is when there's like Thomas Edison light bulbs on it.
Those are tubes, regular tubes.
This is the other side of that. That's where the vacuum tubes go to.
Just stacks and stacks of them. Color coded.
Nina, does this still appeal to you, this sort of thing?
Totally. I can take that as the kitchen. I can take that as the dining room.
Shelves filled with IBM information that probably there's not many copies of left.
This is a 1975 ECRM document scanner. So this is the very first document scanners that were made.
So this would scan those documents and, fill in the dots.
Oh, they got a standardized test almost.
Standardized testing. Yeah.
Right. You got to fill in the whole bubble.
Yeah.
With a number 2
Don't
pencil.
go outside the bubble.
The number 2 pencil demonstrating to you a properly filled in bubble versus a not.
You're going to look like a real idiot to the machine if you do this wrong.
That's a heavy-duty power coupling.
4 to 50, yep. Incredible.
So
that's what would power these kind of machines.
This is a very rare one. This is an Olivetti. That's a PC, but you just don't see Olivetti PCs. There's very few of them made.
These were mainframes, very powerful mainframes. This was from '97. This is kind of like late mainframe era, but mainframes are still around today. Cray still makes mainframes for certain specialty applications. So
look at the burning on this guy. Computer Day.
America Online for Dummies.
Let me ask you a question. Have you ever wanted to make your own movie on a computer? Have you ever?
If we haven't been doing it for 20 years.
Make highlight videotapes automatically. So this is some early AI. Oh, WordPerfect, of course, the dollar store word processor.
Hey, WordPerfect was a serious business tool.
So of course younger people won't know this, but this is what was called a porta potty. The way it would work is it has no electronic components. It's got no really plumbing to speak of. What you do is you drop these off at an event and people can go ahead and go to the bathroom. This one doesn't flush. None of them flush. A man would come at the end of the day, take away all the poop and pee, and dump it off someplace else. And he'd bring it back and everybody can go to the bathroom in it. So we got one of those.
But they always ask for this on movies.
All right, so we've seen the warehouse, but this isn't the only space the Rhode Island Computer Museum has. They also have a space that they call the Learning Lab, where people can come visit every weekend.
So the curated stuff.
Not
the stuff that they dump onto a shelf and say, we'll have this just in case.
Yes, exactly.
Let's go check it out.